Yeah, 78 was almost a transitional time for Genesis because you'd lost Steve Hackett down to a three-piece, but you'd had your first real big hit. So an interesting time throughout that year leading up to Knebworth, wasn't it?
Well, yes, Knebworth. 1978 was a very busy year for Genesis. We actually did 3 tours of America and 3 tours of Europe, and did the Far East and Australia, all in that year. Which, well, it did for Phil's marriage. Fortunately, Mike and I were able to take our wives along and stuff. So it was great fun, but it did seem absolutely relentless. But it was a very successful year for us. We had and then there were three was the album that came out, and as you say, Follow You Follow Me was, was a reasonably big hit. First time it had a single success. Obviously, we sold a lot of LPs before that, but it was so it was a good year. Yeah.
But it's fair to say that Knebworth itself, as a concert, was probably bigger than anything you'd done before.
No, we've done a few big ones in our time. We did. I think the biggest concert we'd done before was Fête des Humanités in Paris a few years before that, which was sort of similar kind of size, maybe bigger. But in terms of something on our own, this was certainly the biggest. It was fairly early days for sort of these big open air concerts, particularly on your own. You'd done festivals, things many times, but they were kind of a different sort of thing, really, where you just sort of slotted in to a rather general audience. This was our own audience, and it was an exciting opportunity.
What were your first impressions of Knebworth when you arrived there?
It was cold, really. Well, it's only cold when we were playing. God, yes, it was big. I mean, it's fun to play these sort of. I don't really remember the estate itself at all. Really, I just remember the gig and the actual thing. It was a nice amphitheatre. We were quite nervous about the idea of it, I suppose. And in the afternoon, we did the video for the song "Many Too Many," which was the second single release stuff, and then there were 3, so that took up quite a bit of our time. And then obviously the show came on, but it was it was quite a thing for us to be able to sort of that many people in one place to come and see us was quite an exciting thing.
Mike says in his book that
it's all lies.
He flew in by helicopter, but you wouldn't do it, and got stuck in traffic. Is that true?
No, I don't know whether it was that time or the next time the helicopter. Actually, I think we all went in on bread this time. But the second time, since we might as well talk about that now, I didn't. Yes, I made it one of my conditions of living to try and never get into a helicopter because I don't like flying really anyhow. And helicopters, I'm a sort of science-based kind of person. I don't really believe in them. See that they should work. So I went in by car that second time, and I was supposed to pick up a police escort at some point because I was in the traffic jam. This guy turns up on a motorbike, and you say, "Oh, the police escort, great, fantastic," and then he just sits himself in front of me like that, and doesn't move. So I'm still in the jam, but now everybody knows that there's someone in the car behind. Who there perhaps might be something to do with the group. So there was, who's that? And then he said he couldn't do anything until he had a second motorcyclist. And the second one did turn up, and we in the end did something exciting. But you compare that with the rest of the world, America particularly, they just love it. Any chance, they will, the police, you get police escorts, they go wrong way down one-way streets, 100 miles an hour, just to get you somewhere 2 minutes earlier than you would have been otherwise. No need for it at all, but they just love it so much. But in England, no, it's very, very sedate. You have to do it absolutely right. And I got there, so who cares? But it was, it was, because it's happened quite a few times at these open air shows, I've had to do similar things. I remember one time in Germany doing the Nuremberg Ring, and the driver actually, because we were in this traffic jams everywhere coming to this thing, and he actually went up the embankment on the side to get onto the side road, up the side like this, which was quite exciting. I mean, he was enjoying himself, but again, not in England.
My memory of that 78 show was that you really got a sense that Phil was, he enjoyed being on the stage before, but this he really connected with the audience that night. He almost got a sign of the solo artist that was to come.
Well, you'd got, really almost from the word go. I think we were, that was the one when he took over the lead vocals, in many ways, that our main thought was, can he really do it on stage? Can he hold an audience, And we started off that tour, Trick of the Tail tour, 76, back in doing 2 or 3 shows in Canada, in Canada at least, where we knew we had a good audience and people might be fairly, tolerant of us. And we actually started in London, Ontario. And it was just that very first show you kind of knew. First, I was there looking, so used to seeing Pete up there and being totally, at ease with what he could do. And seeing Phil go up there, it was sort of, and it just looked all wrong. And then, but halfway through the show, he was sort of starting to communicate with the audience, and they seemed to like him. They were laughing at his jokes, which he liked, of course. And from then on, we kind of knew it'd be all right. And I think he was sort of steady progress for him, really. I think he really came of age, with the Face Value and also the album Duke, which was sort of like done, came out before that, where his voice seemed to sort of take on a kind of more of an urgency about it. I think still at that time, he was still singing more sort of plaintively in a way, but he was very much at ease in front of an audience. And of course the audiences also loved the double drumming, which initially had been done with Bill Bruford and then with Chester Thompson, and became one of the key moments in the set, and great for us, we got to have a beer, but it got longer and longer and longer, in fact. Certain tours, it was about 10, 12 minutes long, and you sort of think, for God's sake, guys, get it together. But it was always a very, exciting moment for the crowd, I think.
And also, I remember the light show with those huge mirrors. Was that the first time you'd tried those out on that tour?
It was the first tour. We only used them on that one tour. The original idea of it was we wanted to try and get it. We got so fed up with follow spots out the front, being operated normally by truck drivers or by union guys who didn't really care too much, and the thing would go all over the place and everything. So we thought what we'd do is we'd have them on stage, operated by our guys, and we'll reflect them off the mirrors. That was the original idea of it. But then we discovered, of course, with the mirrors, because we made them so they could move, we could do all this other stuff with them too, and you put lights on them, and things were happening all over the place. And it sort of led to what we then got very involved in after that, which was the Very Light, which was the idea of a light that could move, which nowadays, of course, no one thinks twice about. But in those days, the idea of one light that could move in any direction and be any colour, those are the things, that was the brief when we originally got involved in the prototypes and all this stuff, and became a very big thing. And of course, the mirrors were kind of forerunner of that, really, the idea of moving lights and things you could do. And it was, the other thing people quite liked about it, I think, was actually mirrors above the stage so you could see what was going on. People said, get these guys out in the front, the real kind of keyboard nuts, who would be looking up at that all the time to see what I was doing with my hands, which is quite funny. But it was a good show, I think, It was, we always tried to put on something slightly different each time.
And then the 1991 was the second time you went back. You've referred to that, which was the Nordoff Robbins Day, a huge, spectacular, almost sort of Live Aid style in terms of the artists who were there. Do you remember that being? Did you actually get a chance to see any of the other acts?
I watched a bit of Paul McCartney. I think I watched a few things. I don't remember really enjoying that concert very much. Actually, it was a bit strange for us because Phil was doing solo stuff, and then we did a couple of songs or something. I just felt we were a bit peripheral. And it didn't sort of really, it wasn't a great show. I don't know what we did, whether we were right or not. I can't really remember. It was just a slightly odd one, really. We were never so comfortable doing the festivals in the early days and everything. Just the nature of the music we do. It's always better with our own audience, with our own kind of visuals, lighting effects, and everything. And obviously, at a show like that, you're kind of pretty much stuck with whatever you had. You just played the songs, which is okay, but it's a different feeling.
And then 2 years later, you were back under your own steam again with the We Can't Dance tour, which the last time you played there. Do you have any memories of that one?
Well, the story I told you just now might get edited out, so I can tell you it again if you want. But about the, about the car getting, the driver not, the police escort not really doing its job. That was there, and. I don't know, it wasn't, by that stage we were much more used to doing the big show, so it wasn't in a sense so special from that point of view, but it was, I remember it being quite a good one, actually, and I know that the audience had real trouble getting out. I don't know if that, it probably was always the case, but it was people were alleged to be there sort of 9 hours later, still trying to get out of this car park. And when we did Earl's Court a little bit later on, we did say, we're glad the audience had managed to get out of the car park at Knebworth to be able to come and see us here. It was, so that was always one of its big drawbacks. There was never any concessions made to try and get people in and out fast, I don't think, by putting sort of perhaps a little more road work in or something.
But you obviously enjoyed playing at Knebworth, having been there 3 times. So what is it about Knebworth that makes it special, do you think, that sort of sets it apart from other venues?
Well, it's, I don't know, it's a sort of open-air venue in England where people play on their own. That's the thing, isn't it? It's sort of, And it isn't a rock. It isn't a stadium. It's not like, you know. I mean, things like Wembley have their own excitement. It's a different kind of thing, really. So you're playing in a sort of piece of England. It's very much an English sort of thing. To some extent, I mean, it just happened to be the place you played. I mean, I know you want me to say something special about it, but you know, it was certainly nothing. You know, we liked the place. It was a nice situation, but it wasn't particularly important to us that it was a sort of, you know, stately home or anything like that.
Did you ever actually go into the home and meet the family?
No, anyone really. I think they probably didn't. They stay as far away as they could. I'm not sure how keen they were on it really in some ways, but you know, it was. And you get, when you're at these kind of things, you get so involved in your own thing. You just tend to be doing. You're there, and your own circus is around you, and you work that. And sometimes you could be anywhere. I'm afraid, you know, and so you're less conscious. You go on stage, and it's normally dark. Well, not actually. Knebworth it probably wasn't, but so you look out to the crowd, and then, in my case, you tend to look at your keyboard a lot. Don't move too much, and that's it.